Hi, we're your hosts, Sean and Brandon. Like cooking, everything has a recipe, a set of instructions to follow in order to get a certain result. Music is no different. Be it ingredients for a dish, a set list for an amazing show, or a release strategy for a successful launch, these are all recipes. So join us in our kitchen as we go through the Music Makers Cookbook.
Hello and welcome to the Music Makers Cookbook, where we help artists put together recipes to follow for success in the music industry. I'm Sean.
I'm Brandon.
And today we're going to be going over pretty much how to create your own musician's recipe, identifying what your music's branding is, and sticking to it so you can tell your story most efficiently.
Yeah, this is one of the most important things, hands down, that you can do for your music and your business itself. Let's face it, at the end of the day, as a musical artist, you are a business and you have to focus on this. And if you don't focus on this, you're already starting off on a bad foot. This is the foundation to your music. And if you don't treat it as such, you're going to have a really tough time in an uphill battle ahead of you. So it's really important to establish these things early on. Know that a lot of these things are meant to change as you go. Everybody grows and everybody expands as time goes on, but just know that you can change these things and they're not set in stone. So moving forward, don't feel nervous when you start coming up with these ideas because they can change, right?
Being a musician, whether it's a solo act, a band, just trying to represent yourself with your music, it is a business. Fans and customers are related. It might be harsh kind of thinking like of music and art in these more business terms, but the more you dive into it, like, because at first I really did not like combining this language, but the more you dive into them, we're like, you know what, these are kind of universal truths. It's just the terminology changes.
Yes.
But basically, to put it in terms that like will be well understood, let's say you're making a pie. Understanding that your music is a business and building that tight foundation to make sure that it functions as it should and gets out to where it needs to, that's the crust of it. Everything that makes you unique and flavorful, like everyone's different. Every pie is different. The filling's different, but they all got that crust. They all got that foundation.
Yep.
So if you're baking your music career, you got to start with the crust.
Yeah, that's such a great point because you do have to have that foundation. Like you have a foundation to the foundation, right? Does that make sense? The branding is your foundation, but you also have a foundation to your brand, right?
I immediately want to go, foundation section.
Like reverb this out, delay it out, make me sound foundation.
Dude, don't give me more work to do.
Oh, damn, I'm sorry. I think once we break this down into digestible pieces for everybody, and we kind of sort this out, you will even see how natural it can be. It can be so natural.
Oh, yeah.
So natural. So we'll get into it.
Yeah, let's jump into it. Let's talk about the ingredients of this.
I think we're eating in today, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to eat out with anybody. So we're going to stay inside. We're going to cook and get cooking.
Get cooking.
Yeah, man.
So you might have a different approach than I do, but big part of what I do is I work with musicians after the songs are created, or even through the process of creating the songs to make sure it aligns with the brand, but really helping identify, hey, what are you about? What is your music about? It's always there, but sometimes it can feel like, there's too much to do or there's too much that I want to say or represent or all this stuff matters, can be overwhelming. I was just working with an artist yesterday and went through this exercise to define what exactly the music's about.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to do. I'll talk about what exactly that process is. But the biggest takeaway was when we were done, it was, man, I feel so much better now because there's only a couple things I need to focus on. I thought it had to be this and this and this and this. I had to spread myself super thin because I didn't know what the core of the message was, what the core of the music was. And not everything has to relate to it. But as long as you're stead true on those things, you can more effectively communicate and more effectively serve the fans by saying, hey, if you belong to this is where you need to listen to my music. You need to be here.
Yeah.
So the way I do that, help artists identify what they're about, is this project that I learned a couple years back. And basically what it is there's this sheet, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes of this podcast episode. And what is it? It's basically a list of 100 adjectives. Things like hard work, professionalism, wonder, peacefulness, energy, grit, anything that, a bunch of adjectives.
Yeah.
And what you do is you just go through the list and write down or mark every single one that fits you as a person, as an artist, and also your music. So eventually have a list of about, maybe 20 to 30 of these adjectives. Well, the next step is to take them and get rid of 20 of them. So you only have 10 left. And once you break it down to 10, okay, now you're more specific on what is this about?
Mhm.
And helps putting it together like, okay, it helps build a clear focus on, okay, what exactly is this
Yep.
about?
Yep.
Then you got to go further, and it gets really hard because you got to take it from 10 down to 3 or 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really get rid of things that don't actually,
Yeah.
they matter, but they're not the actual focus of your music. So you might be thinking like, man, I thought that, freedom was a big part of my music, but I've got 6 of them and I got to get rid of 3 more. And
Yeah.
you know what? These other ones are just way more important than freedom is. So I got to cross that off. And that can help clear your mind because that means you don't have to focus on trying to promote that as much because that's not really what it's about. It's a part of it and you can incorporate it, but it's not the solidness of what your message and your music is about. So that's kind of the process that I do to help artists identify, okay, what are the words? What are the adjectives? What are the descriptors that really get to the heart of my music, of me as an artist, of what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Have you ever done this before or have you
yeah,
done
so-
something similar? Because this is how I defined what my studio was about.
Yeah,
And this is how
sure.
I found that I wanted to do this artist development thing. And
Totally.
so it's a process I've done myself. I've done with a couple different artists and
Yeah.
it really helps them out. So
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I've never sat down and mapped out adjectives, and
Uh-huh.
I've never done that exercise personally. And I actually have a few questions for you going
Shoot.
back to the adjectives too. Maybe I want to start with that real quick. I want to ask you real fast before I go into maybe with something that I've done before. Is with those adjectives, let's say you come up with 30 of them, right? How many of those usually interrelate with each other?
So sometimes they connect to each other, and that's fine if it does. And sometimes you read one and you're like, man, I don't really know exactly what this adjective says. Like on the surface, it's not that important, but there's something about it that's dragging me in. For example, let's say one of them was love. Like you really want to, like, love stood out to you and that was on the list. And you're getting down to the end of it and you're like, man, I feel like just my music's not about love, but something's telling me it's got to stick there. Well, you can dig in deeper and define it. Okay, so love is something that's important to me. What exactly is it? Is it like a love for growth? Is it a love, like a self-love? Is it a love for the people around me? Okay, well, maybe people around me goes more towards community. Maybe self-growth goes more towards like achievement or success or, reflection or hard work or different words. So you can use it to kind of narrow it down or sway to different ways. And if you have a hard time, like, think about it.
Right.
It's not going to be all the answers. There's only 100 adjectives on the list I'm sending, but there's way more out there.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
even if you're like, man, like this is missing, just write it in.
Yeah.
So you don't, it's a process. It takes a lot of thinking. It's not like, oh, I'm going to sit down and do this in 5 minutes. It does take time because sometimes, this overlaps with this. Okay, well, this is actually more like what I'm thinking. Because like if you have love and you have, like community, well, if the love is for the people around you, then community is the stronger word.
Yep.
But until you sit down and really cross out the ones that are kind of around the main point of it, you're going to try to be like, man, I gotta promote love and like acceptance. And it's going to be too broad and your message is not going to be clear enough to really gain true fans who identify exactly with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Whereas if like, community is the root of it. I need to talk about community, share posts about, the artists who work with me, the places I go, like maybe a selfie with the promoter or the venue owner or things like that to really showcase the community of it, or even get like highlights on my reel of fans singing my song, or tag people like fans who like bought my merch, or try to like encourage them to send me a picture of them wearing like my shirt so I can post it up and like do things like that. Because the community is the root,
Right.
not love.
Right.
You can get distracted if it's the things around the main thing. So that's kind of the importance of, and you will find words that are both true, but what's the real root?
Yeah, because I was just curious because that exercise seems like a game of Tetris, right? Some of those might fit together, and then once those fit together, that row disappears and it all becomes one row, right? And like then you can build out like a little map from it, right? And some of those kind of seem like they funnel into each other. So like it really becomes this broad. I know this is going to sound backwards. This broad microeconomic, right? Use of words, right? You have a bunch of little guys, right? But then it's all synthesized into the macro, which you have the more overlying generalized terms, right? Which kind of embody each one of those in its own separate way. That's the way I kind of think about it. It's like a little bit reversed. It's kind of funneled all into 3 or 5. And I kind of getting the point of that exercise.
Yeah. And the better you identify the 3 or 5, the better you're able to represent it as a whole.
Right.
So That's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I want to ask how you take that, like a little bit backstory on us real quick before we go into it. If you're the first time listener, we are both engineers at heart. We are audio engineers. I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but you are too, Sean, right?
That's the majority of my experience.
Believe it or not, that's how we met. So without bogging down with a whole backstory about how we met, but we're audio engineers at heart, and we are no strangers to adjectives. Oh my goodness.
Oh
Are
my
we?
God.
Oh my God.
How do you describe music?
Dude,
it's hilarious to
It's
hear.
awesome, man.
But it's so cool. I mean, that's why this is the Music Makers Cookbook,
Yes.
because we're trying to tie it to something that everyone can relate to.
Mhm.
You know, everyone eats.
Yep.
Everyone has taste. And music is the same. Everyone's got taste for
Exactly.
music.
And what
So-
makes things tasteful? Spices. And those adjectives are kind of like the spice to your brand, right?
Yeah.
So let's
Yeah, exactly. Like, is my brand spicy? Is
Exactly.
my brand sweet? But
Yep.
instead, it's like, is my brand about, creativity?
Yes.
Is it like, I want to emphasize the creative aspects of it? Or is my brand about hard work, about success, about, even like, it could be something like very vulnerable. It could be about depression. It
Yeah.
could be about self-loathing.
Yeah.
Because there's a bunch of people out there who need to relate to topics like that.
Oh, for sure.
And, music is a form of therapy. So if that's what you're about, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yes.
But if you know what it's about, maybe you feel like, oh, I got to hide away from it because it's so, it is self-loathing or whatnot.
Mhm.
You might want to reject going deep. You might want to be like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't want to represent this, or not even trying to think about how deep your music is because the topic is scary.
Right.
But, identifying, what actually is about this.
Mhm.
There's power in knowing what it's about.
Yes.
And being like, okay, if this is what it's about, I can accept that, and not have to tiptoe around it all the time
Mhm.
and be like, man, I can't tell people this is what it's about. I got to keep it hidden. And maybe you decide like, this is what it's about, but I don't want to be upfront. So maybe secret, being secretive.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the better
Yeah.
word. So just figuring out exactly what it is. And then you can always go back to it. If you don't know, man, I got to make this new website for my music, or I got to make this band poster or merch.
Mhm.
What is it going to be about? Well, let me look at these 3 words. Okay. Maybe I got to make sure the design emphasizes the fact that it's secretive. Maybe
Yes.
like some words are obscured or hidden or
Yeah.
blacked out or scratched out. Maybe the website has like a darker tonality, or maybe
Mhm.
you're about happiness.
Yeah.
So you got to have bright colors, or like, don't have drop shadows, like have like bright borders around the words,
Yep.
or bubbly letters. And it's just so useful to have a set of defined things that really do speak to your music, because everyone
Yes.
has them.
Yep.
Everyone is doing them subconsciously.
Yep.
But defining it really helps you. We're talking in circles here, but
No,
it
for
is
sure.
so
But
powerful.
it's really
so
that
powerful.
it's that important to hit on this topic a lot, because like you said, if you have knowledge of what you stand for and what your brand stands for, you have power.
Mhm.
And if you don't have that, people will come up with that for you,
Mhm.
or even worse,
Ooh.
they won't come up with that for you because they don't want to deal with that, because it takes extra energy to do, right? So, building off of, I know we're big fans.
Hold on. Can you say that? Can you say that again? If you don't define your brand,
Yeah. If you don't define your brand, either somebody will define it for you, or they will never define it for you,
Mhm.
right? And sometimes people defining it for you is almost worse than people not defining it for you.
because then you can gain the wrong fan base that
Yes.
you don't want to have
Yes.
listeners to,
Yes.
or who make you feel trapped to a certain kind of music or performance or production because, man, this is what they expect from you, and that's really not what you want.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know,
Small caveat. Sometimes that's okay.
on small caviar.
Ooh, I'll take 2, please. Yeah, no, I've never had caviar. Have you?
Nor have I.
Does it look good?
I mean, it kind of looks like boba, but
It does a
tiny.
little bit, but if it pops like boba, I'm out.
Really, you don't like boba?
I know
Fruit boba?
I like boba, but like, isn't caviar fish?
It is fish eggs.
Yeah, if it pops like that, I'm out, dude.
I
can't do that.
I want to try it. All right, let's go back to it.
Yeah.
Let's go back to it.
Yeah. Sometimes that's okay though. So like, if you're an artist that's first starting out, and I do see this a lot. I see entry level artists, and that's not demeaning. It's just, you're fresh into it.
I'll start there.
We all start there. We've all started there, and a lot of times we imitate at that stage. A lot of times we imitate going forward too, until
Dude,
we
there's a
reach
book
that.
behind your head right now entitled "Great Artists Steal."
Yes, we all steal from each other. By the way, nothing's new.
No,
Kind of.
Kind of.
Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to put that out.
We're gonna go down a rabbit.
We'll go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Okay.
Would you like that as a side dish?
This will be the side dish. We'll go back to this later. All right. So
Yeah. So like, I think if you're an entry level artist and you're just starting out, you have no knowledge, no prior anything of anything relating to music, anything relating to music production, anything relating to even business, right? I think it's okay if you test the waters and you start putting stuff out and you find that people are identifying you a certain way, because that will help you kind of gain a path. And that might not be the way that I would personally do it at this stage, right? Sometimes that is okay. So like, it's all within reason and all within intentionality. You know, that's really the most important thing. If that's something you're searching for, it's like a little bit of a market research thing where you're like, I have this music. I think I'm unique. We'll go down that rabbit hole another day. You know, I want somebody to define me for me. But as you mature though, you're going to start defining yourself and becoming more confident. And a lot of this is rooted in confidence too.
Oh yeah.
And you might be painted as something you never wanted to be, but sometimes that's okay. You know, so
it
like,
can be. Sometimes you end up finding enjoyment.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the right thing finds you. So just a quick example about that.
Yeah, please.
That exact thing really represents kind of where I ended up with my studio.
Yeah.
Cause you know, we're in the Metro Detroit area.
Yep.
So, you know, there's a hip hop scene.
Big time.
That's what you're in.
Yes. Majorly.
So when I first started, and I first had my studio, my first clients were hip hop artists. And it was starting to build up like, man, I'm getting some word of mouth. Maybe this is going to be the niche that I end up in. I did not want to be in that niche. Bunch of factors, but mainly because while I do love the music,
yes,
it's not the music that made me fall in love with the process and music in general. And, you know, I play not great, but I play a bunch of instruments. I actually started with EDM and the whole music creation sort of aspect. And a lot of hip hop is based around buying beats and telling your story on top of it.
Yep.
And that's not how it creatively fit in my process. So I was in danger of people defining me as a hip hop engineer.
Yes.
And I had to step back and be like, no, that's not what I do. Maybe that would have happened. I would have been like, you know, I really enjoy this. The people are really cool, which people were really cool.
Yeah.
But that's not the only thing that mattered to me. So I had to step back and say, okay, I don't want to do this. I want to do folk, rock, acoustic, those kinds of genres. And I can't get that with who's coming to me right now. Where can I go to get that? Where are the people who perform, who make folk music, acoustic music? Where do they perform? Let me go there. Let me talk to those artists. Or if it's not a big area around me, how do I find them online? That's what I end up doing. A big part of who I work with are remote clients. I got someone from New Zealand, someone from California, all over the place.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't like, you know, I don't want to do hip hop, let me redefine my niche, I would probably still be doing hip hop because that's what was finding my way.
Yeah.
Now, just replace niche with genre and replace clients with fans. And all of a sudden it's like, man, these kind of people listen to my music and they expect this sort of thing from me. That's not really what I vibe with. I enjoy certain aspects of it, but I know from doing it, this isn't for me. I need to change my music, change my direction, and change my fan base. Okay. So let's say you were performing in bars and people who there, you know, they were listening, but they weren't really vibing the music the way you want them to. Okay. Well, maybe like for me, folk, I'm going to talk from a perspective of folk artist. Okay. You know, people aren't really digging my music. They aren't digging my dish.
Yeah.
They don't have the palate for me. They're looking for something greasy and I'm providing something, you know, savory or, you know, something homemade or whatever. So where can I go for that? Okay. Maybe you try to find like local coffee shops that perform or do busking. You know, if there's like an art fair going on or something where people who are, you know, looking for something more homemade, try to get involved in those kind of things or block parties, homegrown concerts, things like that, just to get to perform in front of the people who are going to appreciate it. So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Kind of went on a little bit of a tangent there, but that's kind of the importance of it.
It's important. And you made some really good points in there. I want to kind of go back and touch on some of those. And first of all, when you made that decision to, I'll say, pivot away from hip hop, even though that wasn't where you wanted to go in the first place, it kind of sounds like that's where your cold market started, right? Everybody really starts with a very cold market. You have a very small natural warm market, very small. Unless like you have somebody in the family that's done this and you're apprenticing under them, or I'm sure there are other specific situations that differ. Of
Like,
course,
let's say you were the guitarist in a band, you decide to make your own gig, and
exactly.
you can, try to pull some fans over.
Exactly. But generally, you're starting pretty cold, right?
Yep.
And you're really just putting yourself out there, and whoever comes up first, that's who you get, right? And it sounds like the hip hop clients started funneling in, and you got to a point where you're like, this is not me. I'm gonna stop accepting hip hop, and that's good because like it's like, so you let the market take you into a direction, and you're like, this direction is not for me. I'm gonna pivot out of this. So right there, it kind of goes back to my point earlier. It's like when you're doing this, when you're starting entry level stuff, right? It's like you can let the market define where it wants you to go, and you can follow that, or you can realize very quickly through maturity, like you did, right? Yeah. And be like, this is not me. I'm out, and I'm gonna get out of here as quick as possible. And the funniest part is that hip hop will brand you so quickly because there is such a word of mouth base and within hip hop, because there are a lot of people that do it, right? That you will become a hip hop engineer very fast, very fast. It's the biggest genre in the world right now. There's no doubt about that. Unless the numbers have changed since the last time I looked, it is by far and large the biggest genre in the entire world. Mainly because there's a lower entry to barrier to entry, right? But also because that's what people are vibing with these days. I love hip hop. Don't get me wrong, I love hip hop. It's great, but it's what makes people want to move and stuff. But what I'm saying though, generally, is that this market, the hip hop market, will take you and brand you as such, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's a really important point that I think people need to realize through that story is that when you are taken to these places with these specific markets, right, you will have to define yourself eventually, or you might be kind of miserable in the end. It might not be what you want to do, and it's really hard to pivot out of that when you become that guy.
Especially when you start getting the taste of like, oh, I'm getting clients now. I may not be happy with it, but or even like, oh, I'm getting fans now. People are starting to listen to my music. Maybe not who I want to, or maybe it's not the songs that I really want to speak the most. Yeah. But the taste of like, oh, there's something going on here.
It's so funny because I want to quote from the Six Figure Creative, who is very influential to me and has pretty much bossed my entire life so far, which has been awesome. But Chris and Brian over there are the absolute homies, and I absolutely look up to them.
Oh yeah.
And they say the golden handcuffs, right? You're tied to a job, a nice paying job, right? You can kind of get golden handcuffs within a genre. Yeah. All of a sudden, this is paying really well for you, but if this isn't your main thing, you're kind of just handcuffed to it. Yep. Just because it pays well, right?
And that's such a common thing. I'm just going to conclude with this, and then I want to go back to something else. Yes. But there's such a common thing where fans will say, man, I miss the old stuff.
Yeah.
Or, oh, man, you're trying something new. Like, oh, why don't they just do this album again?
I'm a big proponent of that. I'm like, oh, I miss the old stuff a lot of the time. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
But, you need to go where you need to go. Yes. And, you'll still have the old stuff. Let's say make a song and speak to certain people, you'll still have that stuff. But if it's not where you want to go and it's not where you're vibing with, move on.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong about moving on.
Agreed.
So we kind of skipped over a step.
Yeah.
So throughout a process, when I work with people, the first one is defining the core values of you as an artist and as your music.
Yeah.
The third step is defining what your ideal fan is, so that you can put it in front of them.
Oh my God, yeah.
As basically we just talked about, and what I said, if you got to play in front of the right crowd, go to the right venues, or post the right things on social media that attract the right places, or go start a conversation in the right threads or on the right websites, or contact the right interviewers.
It's okay. That's okay. I know I got to remember to silence all my stuff. Yeah. So I think go ahead.
So yeah. So like, if you want that homegrown sort of vibe, go to local college radio stations, do interviews there. Maybe don't go on a hip hop station. Yep. Or if vice versa, don't go on like a college folk radio station. Go to like, go to something underground, maybe like something like live streamed or whatever. And know, that's where your ideal fan goes to find new stuff, and that's where you need to be.
Yes.
Same with like, if you have an album and you want to submit it for playlists.
Oh yeah.
Make sure you submit it to the right playlist. Some playlists might get a lot of listens, but And maybe you'll get more listens on one playlist than another playlist.
Yep.
But if the other playlist has people who actually really care about that genre, especially if you're a niche genre, then those are ones who are going to stick around versus, man, I've got 3 times as many views on this playlist, but now all my numbers are skewed.
Yep.
Now Spotify's recommending my music to people who aren't as in deep with this genre, who aren't as gruff. So you got to be careful about, where you submit stuff and where it gets spread.
Yes.
Going to your ideal fan.
Yep.
That's the third step. The second step that I usually work through with artists is, you got to define your aesthetic.
Yes.
So that when you do go to your ideal fans, you have the look and the sound that, speaks to them.
Yes.
So the way I do that is I use Pinterest and build a board with my clients.
That's great.
So yeah. And
great.
so basically it is, I'm sure most people have heard of Pinterest, but if you haven't, it's just a source where you can grab a bunch of pictures or videos and put them in one central location. And then after you build it up enough, it starts recommending you similar things that you can add to this board and kind of keep a bunch of things together. So what I do is I say, hey, here's your Pinterest board that I've made for you. Let's work together, get it started. And then here's a link so we can share, we can both see it, and then just take it away. So when I worked with my last client, I was like, that exact thing. We're going to build this thing together. So think about, okay, now that you know your core values and you know what it stands for, use those when you're searching for images. So if it's wonder and maybe you want photographs of grand landscapes of, very scenic, picturesque views, well, then also think about, okay, well, maybe all of these scenic views that I'm loving are mountains, or maybe they're all beaches, or maybe I want more of an urban setting. I love the tattoo art or like graffiti, or I like, pop art where it's very bright colors and, I'm very into that scene, or, a lot of them are blue. Like that's the image that the big color that really comes in mind. Once all together, you start seeing these things that fit throughout all of it. So for example, let's say, I was working with somebody and they're like, man, I picked a bunch of, let's just say graffiti, urban, high fashion, name brand clothes. And like, that's kind of like name brand stuff. And a lot of that kind of stuff is what kind of gets together. So there's like the red, but maybe not a lot of other bright colors, or maybe there are a bunch of bright colors. Let's say for this kind of, hypothetical, it is a bunch of, bright colors, like neon, spray paint, that kind of deal. Okay, cool. So now you kind of understand that if it fits within those core values that we've identified, boom, there's a connection there. One thing, the aesthetic tells the story of the core values. So now you know what the aesthetic tells your core value stories. How do you represent it? Right. So if you're all about success and you want to have, like name brand clothes or whatnot, make sure that's in your social media. Make sure you have a couple things that when you take pictures, it's there. If you like those bright colors, make sure you've got like a neon hat, like a yellow hat with a pink rim or something that pops out and like, boom, this helps going about like being bright, being stand out. If stand out's a big word, make sure you have something that stands out, something that's different. Crank up the saturation on your picture, something that is different, but still tells your core value. And then instantly, in a very easy visual manner, people can say, yes, that's for me, or no, that's not for me. And it's almost more important to be an easy disqualifier for potential fans than an easy qualifier, because you don't want to muddy the water of people being, oh, check that out, because, I like that one thing. And then all of a sudden, all like these algorithms with everything the world works, now they're all skewed. So it's almost more important to disqualify things that people who don't stand for what you stand than to instantly qualify the people who do.
It's almost like these days people almost protect their own personal brand that way, which is insane, right? Everybody has their own brand.
Everyone.
Because everybody, I mean, going through how you dress, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Everybody online has their own personal brand too, because like how you said, the algorithms, right? So I think that's a great point. I think you'd want to have a disqualifier, too, because like that's just as important as having a qualifier for somebody, right? Because like a qualifier is not necessarily going to push somebody over the edge, but a disqualifier will. And sometimes if you disqualify, people get mad and they'll check you out anyways. So
it's kind of the whole like no news is bad news thing.
It's like, wow, this guy's pissing me off. I gotta go look at other videos to make me mad. People love being mad.
They kind of do. And also sometimes, depending on what you stand for, like if you're into, punk or grunge or heavy metal or, even hip hop. It's like, hey, you don't have to even pick what you stand for. You can you just as easily say, this is something I stand against
Yes.
and promote the shit out of that. Like, hey, I dislike this.
Yep.
And if you dislike it too, stay here because I'm going to rip into it with my music. I'm
Yes.
rip into it with my socials and my content. My videos are going to diss this shit.
Yep.
So, you know, you can use a negative as something that people hate to gather, you know, that support, that push. It doesn't have to be positive.
Yep. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. And I think there's a lot of case studies that we could take a look at, you know, that do this really well, for better or for worse. Also the opposite way, who brand themselves really well. Particularly through different eras, if you know what I'm going for. Miss Taylor Swift, she does it really well, and
she is so good at branding.
She is, oh my god, phenomenal, dude. She's up there with Apple and Coke. I swear to God, that's how good her branding is.
You know what musician branding I think has a really good branding that's really not for everyone, that is an amazing disqualifier, but has a diehard fan base?
Ghost.
Insane Clown
Posse.
Posse.
Damn it, I was close.
Insane Clown Posse.
Not really, but
they are so good at disqualifying almost everyone.
Yes.
But the people they do have are diehard.
Yes.
You know, Swifties are diehard too. But that just shows, like, you know, having a strong thing like AC/DC.
Yes.
Plus, because of their style, they can merch and release things like the crap out of it. You know, they got pinball machines.
Yes.
It's got that strong of a brand. There's nothing saying artists can't do something like that.
Insane to me. Insane. And if you go through, I want to use Taylor Swift as an example primarily because, like you were saying, like the colors and everything, they really dictate how the emotional feel is and whatever, you know, that kind of goes into it, right? And she does it every single album. It changes. That's why she's going on her Eras tour right now. At the time of filming this, 2023, April 2023, she's currently on her Eras tour, and she's going through all her different eras, and they all look different. I don't know if AT&T commercial or something. She has all of herself standing in one elevator, all of her different albums, and she's dressed all differently.
That's sick,
dude. She is like top notch.
That kind of reminds me of like another band that does that, 21 Pilots.
Oh yeah,
every single album has a different color scheme. Blurry Face was red and black. Skilled and Icy is pink and blue. Trench is yellow and green.
Yes.
And then before that, you know, like their self-titled one. They had a couple before that, but their self-titled one, like that had its own, you know, like white and black.
Yep.
But every single one has their own color scheme, has their own set of branding. And you can do it like that. You can do it by album. You can do it by single. Maybe single, maybe not single. Maybe that might be too quick.
Yeah, it might be a lot.
Or you can do it as, this is my career, like Kiss does.
Yes.
Where this is what they look like throughout all of it.
What you see is what you're going to get.
Which is what you're going to get.
Yep.
There's power to both, but all of them are so steadfast in their aesthetic and how they represent themselves. And they know who they, like, what they stand for. So that when they do go to places where their ideal clients go, this is tying this into the third step.
Yep.
Everyone there is like, that is what I'm about, because everything about it embodies it. The music industry is also a fashion industry.
Yes, very
and
much so.
It's also a social industry.
Very much so.
You know, because, you know, there's sign my face, sign my album, sign my baby, that whole joke thing.
Totally.
People, you know, there's a personal connect there because music is so spiritual, so emotional, so connecting. So. And there is that connection between the listener and the artists. And being able to be like, I'm in the right spot. You will enjoy my music just based off of how you see me. Before you even hear the music, if someone can identify with you before they even hear your music, the chance that they're going to love your music skyrockets.
100%.
Skyrockets.
100%. Yeah, our community is of extremely big importance to music, going back to its roots. I mean, we grew up. We've evolved over time to
back in my day.
You know, back in the 1210, you know. But yeah, you know, we've evolved with other humans, but the one thing that we've always kind of shared is a love for music, whether it be chants, whether it be just drums or specific things done around dancing. We've all connected in that sort of way with music, and that the community aspect of that is just as important today as it has ever been. And like, there are shiny objects in the way to get there, right? There's Facebook, there's all social media, right?
Yep.
There's so many different platforms to reach people on, but at the end of the day, it really is about community, and how you find that community and how you tie those things in together is through your brand as well. Like, It is so ideal. It's just so important. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's just so important that branding is just the should be a forefront, if not a priority, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
I wish if you're not watching the video podcast, I would hope you are, because it's just Brandon is getting
Dude.
so into it. He's just everything is coming together.
Dude,
it's like
I'm
it's
about
so
to
important.
levitate. This chair is coming out of the studio with me, bro. We're going up right
That's a nice
now,
chair,
dude.
man. I want to keep it.
It is a really nice chair, dude. I feel relaxed in here.
Yeah.
You didn't even need to gaslight me all that much.
No, I didn't. Just don't come behind the scenes. Don't make me sound like I'm worse than I am. But okay, as you just so unprompted, let me say, said, you just
Yeah.
feel comfortable here.
Yeah.
As you do with your music and your brand, you know, every business does this too. And this goes back to how we started off with. Music is a business. And these concepts are broad, but they transcend in every like multiple aspects, but specifically we're talking the music. Music is a business. When I started my studio, I did this. What matters to me? What kind of music and what kind of client aligns with this? This is who I want to work with. Okay, where do I go to find these people I want to work with? And how to represent myself to be the kind of person they want to hire and help collaborate with to make music. Because that's what a mixing master engineer is. It's a collaboration, you know.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion. And
Very
I want
much
to find
so.
people who agree.
Yeah.
So I did that, but then also, okay, well, how do I represent my studio to attract those people? What kind of colors do I use? What kind of vibe do I have?
Yeah.
What kind of comfort do I use? There's a reason that chair's here.
Yes.
There's a reason that this lighting is yellow lighting, not LED.
Yes.
There's a reason.
Thank
that
you for
this-
that, by the way.
You're
Yes.
welcome.
Yes.
Shining in my face this whole time. So you're gonna, yeah. But there's a reason the walls are green.
Yes.
Which this is the only episode we're ever gonna record here, so you'll never
Maybe.
see this again.
Maybe.
Maybe we'll see.
We might do an off-site.
Maybe your basement will flood again.
Oh.
I'm so sorry. I should not
Oh
have
my
put that
goodness.
out there. But no, there's a reason. I did all this, and a lot of clients will come in, the people I want to work with, and they'll say, "Man, I feel so at peace here.
Yeah.
I'm ready to record. I can get into my music. This just feels like a good space."
Yep.
And that's on purpose. I intentionally put around it. It's not just white walls, painted white. I've got, you know, and this could work for some people. I've got
Yeah.
different people like writing, like all these artists writing their names on the walls.
Right. I've
and
seen
like,
that a lot.
yeah.
Yeah.
A bunch of stickers everywhere. You know, one wall's pink, one wall's yellow. You know, it's all over the place.
Yep.
That works for some people. Doesn't work for the clients I want to work
Right.
with. Doesn't work for the artists that I want to work with. That would inspire them to make the best art they can.
Yep.
And also doesn't work for me. I spend a lot of hours in here. If I'm not inspired by the area
Oh,
I'm in, I'm not
man.
going to do the best of work.
It's so important. It's so important.
And that's leads into the last part of today's episode. You brought up social media and all
Yeah.
that. I'm so excited to go into social media with you
Yeah,
and the
I'm not.
importance of that. I'll carry it. I'll carry it. Trust me.
Please,
I'm so
please.
excited about that because the more I learn, the crazier it is.
Yeah, no, I just got to learn more. That's it. That's it. And then I won't be as intimidated. And
Yeah.
yeah.
But to build into it, kind of wrapping it all together, is those are the three ingredients of this recipe.
Yes.
Of, okay, my final product is defining what I do, how I present that to be authentic, and then be what the ideal fan wants to see. That's the recipe. You go from your core values to how you present it, and saying it to the right fan, communicating that specific way will put together the end result of a true fan, someone who really agrees with everything you're saying.
Yes.
And you do it enough times, you don't build true fans, you build a true fan base.
Right.
And a strong fan base allows you to do so much
A
more.
lot.
So much
lot.
more. And once you know this, I said I want to go to social media.
Yep.
It'll probably be a sister episode to this one because this leads right into that. Now you know, okay, this is my message. This is how I'm presenting it. And this is who I'm saying it to. Now all you need to do is add your music.
Yep.
And you've got social media content, videos, images, posts.
Yep.
You know, right there. You've got your whole content creation calendar.
Yep.
Man, community is a focus to me. Okay. I know that community is the main word. I know I got to represent it in a way that's authentic. So, you know, it's very homegrown, very folky. So I played a house show. I'm gonna grab pictures of the house show. I'm gonna do behind the scenes stuff of me in the studio or recording a demo. Like, hey
Yeah.
guys, here's behind the scenes. Here's a demo. Here's a picture of my lyric list. Things like that. And, you got to give it to people who are interested in those kinds of
Yes.
things. So a little bit of sneak peek of next time. Attention spans are so quick, about
Oof.
6 seconds. Yeah, 6
Brutal.
seconds to capture someone's attention
Brutal.
on video.
And it's only getting shorter.
Yes. But think about it. If you know who you're speaking to and what they're interested in,
Yep.
you can very quickly do that
Do
in
it.
6 seconds.
You can do it.
And it makes the stress of what do I do? How do I get people to find my music? Because
Yeah.
every day on Spotify, more than 65,000 songs are uploaded.
Yep.
Having good songs is not enough anymore. You have to put it in front of the right people.
100%.
This makes it so much easier to communicate it. And now, because it's so focused, it's not just that big broadness out there that we talked about earlier.
Yep.
So that's the whole recipe. That's putting together the ingredients. And that's, why it's important to build a music brand.
Yeah. I mean,
And that's my personal process of doing it. If you have a different process of doing it, please let us know.
yeah,
If you have a different process of doing it, we'll talk about it later.
for sure.
But that's pretty much my run through.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That is like the most clear cut and like synthesized way I think that you can put it. And like, it's not intimidating. It just takes time.
Mhm.
It takes effort.
Mhm.
And it takes creativity.
Mhm.
Like, you have to be creative with this too, I think one of the biggest things, when you get to that point of social media, right? And when you're building your brand is, why should anybody give a shit? Seriously, why should anybody fucking care? Why? I already listen to music.
Yeah.
All right. I have my favorite artists. Why should I care about you? Right. I think having that in your mind and building your brand, right? You should always try to keep that in perspective of your fan, right? Your ideal fan. So you make up, let's say you go back to step 3, right? And you make up your ideal fan, right? And you jot down the demographic, right? 21 to 32 or something. Well, what a bad age range, but yeah, you know what I mean, right? And you really like think this up, right? So why should they care?
Right.
Right?
So the 30 words come in. This is why you should care.
This is why, right?
Yeah.
I want to tell you a story, right? Or I want to enrich your life. I want to make you see the world through my eyes in a different way. I want to make you enjoy life in general. Like, I want to provide a soundtrack to your life, right?
Yeah.
But how do you communicate that? Because it's not always, and then like we can go into this with the social media episode too.
How do you
But-
put these together and
how do you-
actually put it up
Exactly. And that really starts at your brand, right? And like, I don't know how many times I see people post, it's just noise. It's all noise. And I might be quoting Donald Miller, from the Building a Story brand, but he says, there's 2 different types of things out there. There's noise and there's music. Music is deliberately put in a way that is enjoyable, where noise just falls out and we forget about it. It just falls upon all the other noise out in the world, right? And if you make your music all about you, you are absolutely fucked. I'm so sorry. Like, there has to be a give and take there. You have to meet people halfway sometimes. And not even necessarily in the music of it, but in the marketing of your music, right? Come check out my new song. Okay, why should I give you 3 minutes of my time? That's it.
Why should I give you 20 seconds?
Why should I even click on it?
Yeah.
I'm busy.
Yeah.
I'm not busy if I'm scrolling on my TikTok feed, but I'm busy looking for entertainment, right? I actually came across a group today on TikTok, and they made me stop. I don't remember why. There was just something about the video. It was a really catchy song, very appealing, and almost nostalgic. It actually provided me a little bit of nostalgia, and the band sounded like Linkin Park, and I was like, wow, because like the Meteora 20-year anniversary was just last week, 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, so Linkin Park's been heavy on my mind, which is kind of weird because then TikTok's algorithm. We'll get into that later. FBI agent, whatever. But it made me stop and think, and I was like, wow, this is really cool. It's nostalgic. They don't sound like Linkin Park. Nobody's ever going to sound like Chester or any of the other guys. But I was like, wow, this is great, and it's provided me a lot of joy. I actually went and listened to the actual song itself. Swear to God, I actually sought my way through TikTok's terrible back audio log
so hard
to get to the song. I actually typed it in. That's where you have to meet people, right?
And how quickly did it grab your attention?
I watched a TikTok video at least twice.
Yeah, but because how quick?
Yeah,
there was something within.
There was something
right at the start that was like, I'm gonna stick around.
The visual.
The visual.
The visual definitely caught my
aesthetic
caught
of it
my
caught
eye.
your
Yeah,
eye.
And then the music and the melody's really catchy. I was humming it on the way over here, and I was like, wow, this is great. I don't think I'll ever listen to it again.
What you just said, like the music should emphasize these things.
Yes.
It should just solidify all these things.
Yes.
Like, man, I don't want to ramble on too long, but I'm reading the E-Myth Revisited right now.
Yeah.
And he's talking about, the brand. I mean, what you're selling is the business, not the commodity.
Right.
And the same thing is what you're selling is the emotion that the music represents.
Yes.
And the lifestyle or the thoughts or the messaging that the music represents. That's what you're really trying to sell to your fans, not the song. You're trying to sell them, this is how you will feel when you listen to it. This is the emotion that I'm conveying. These are the stories that I'm telling. These are the things you will relate to. And yeah, that's exactly.
That's a good point.
That's what you need. Yeah. So the aesthetic is what caught your attention, because the aesthetic sells the nostalgia that you want to feel, and the music enforces that.
And it's so funny because in the comments, the first comment was, I can imagine this in the credits of a Transformers movie. And we all know that we've a lot of us have seen that Transformers, series. If not, you've at least seen the first, movie. And at the end of the movie, there's a Linkin Park song at the credits, right? And that's what the joke was. And it had over like 17,000 likes on it. That was the joke. That was the comment. But
it landed.
And like that was a common ground.
Yeah.
It was so common.
And because it was so common and people related to it, now they're responding. Now they're upvoting. Now, wait, there's other people who are enjoying this. There's a community. I should share this to my buddy. This is funny. People will add. If you're so clear about what you want to say, people will get it and they will add to it. And when they add to it and they share it, that's where the real growth happens.
Yes.
So, making that joke, that comment is your fans giving you content that allows your music to be spread further. All right. I'm going to say we probably got to end this.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I can keep talking about it. We've talked in circles a little bit. I've already got things personally that we're going to clip and put on our TikTok.
Yes.
Because, we're doing this too.
Yes. People will see my thighs.
Yes. White and pasty. I'm talking about mine, by the way.
No, mine too. It's like, it's been 80 degrees.
Spring just started. Okay. We haven't gotten a
Michigan.
tan yet.
So sorry.
Give us a break.
Yeah. We're melting. So,
but anyways, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, follow this wherever you listen to podcasts. Give us a review. If you're a musician, you probably have musician friends. If you got musician friends, they would probably benefit from listening this too. So
not the website.
Share this around.
Yes. Please share. Musician's friend.
Musician friend. Oh, that's owned by Guitar Center, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they bought that up.
I think they share the same warehouse. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, share it around. Thank you for listening.
Thank you guys for listening. Yes, it's been a pleasure to fill your ear holes.
Tune in next week. I almost said June in. Tune in next week for some fresh new produce.
Ooh. Yeah, we got to make a grocery store trip. We need some more ingredients.
Yeah, we do. We got more recipes we're gonna be putting together for you. So stick tuned.
Ooh.
And if you've got any things you want us to cook for you, things you want to put together, leave messages below. In the show notes, I'll have an email that you can send things to give us suggestions, give us your feedback, let us know that you disliked everything that we just said. I completely disagree. Artists should never try to do anything about that.
Tell us
which
how
actually
we're wrong.
We need to talk about another episode. I'll probably cut this out, but another episode we got to talk about is the mindset behind
Oh God.
transitioning.
It's gonna be like
making
a 30
money,
part episode.
right?
Yeah.
Which that could be cool. The first episode is just eating in, talking about it, and the next episode we eat out. Like, hey, interviewing musicians, like what turned your mind into actually accepting money for your music and like why it's okay for you. So yeah, we'll do that later.
Yeah. It's gonna be a long one.
I did enough. We're done. That's the conclusion.
We're good.